A very good evening to everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of Second and Saints. I'm John Hendricks alongside Ross Jackson. Guys, we really appreciate you tuning in this evening. We've got a pretty good bit to cover, especially a mock draft. So definitely stay tuned for that. But we got a lot of fun things that we'll dive into and such. So appreciate your support as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're growing. We're trying to make that push to at least 500. So get us there. I know you can. I know Who Dat Nation is there. So Ross, how you doing this evening? What's new with you?
Liddy, my friend. No, I'm doing great. I'm turned. I'm ready for a mock draft. I'm ready for draft week.
Right.
This is like my favorite time of the year, man. I love the draft. I love watching people's dreams come true. Like, this is awesome. So I'm really excited to dive in. How you holding up, man?
I'm good. You said dreams come true. I like also where mock draft Twitter gets hurt too. That's also a fun time to see. But no, I'm doing good.
There are two types of people that enjoy the draft, John.
That's right. That's right. Man, it's funny. But no, I've been doing good. I love in this weather. Like, it was Saturday, we were out and about and it was like hot and kind of like I'm sweating and stuff. And then all of a sudden you actually feel a breeze and it's like, what is this California wind like air coming out here? You know what I'm saying?
It was cold today. I was not a fan.
Good and cold. Well, I like cold weather. So yeah, I'd like to be an iceberg probably. I'd rather be cold than hot. So, but nah, I know I'm in probably the minority with that. Not saying literally, but yeah, really. Well, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Ross, let's start here because I think this is one of the fun, or I don't want to say fun. One of the things that came out, ESPN's Bill Barnwell, he turned out an article talking about the possibility of Saints trading Trevor Penning in the draft. Now, that's really interesting for starters that would be suggested. But going a step further, you actually toyed with this idea in your Locked On Saints episode. So your thoughts about trading Trevor Penning, we could start there and just kind of dialogue on it. And what did you do? What was the haul that you got if you traded Trevor Penning? Can't talk tonight.
That's okay. No, you're good. So the way that I did this was so we do a big like Locked On Network mock draft. And so every one of our experts that cover all the teams do the first selection for their teams and all of the first round picks and stuff like that. And so I ended up trading Trevor Penning away, but I did it differently than Bill Barnwell did it. Bill Barnwell was making the argument, I guess, or not the argument, but, making the case for trading Penning in order to move up in the first round, if I recall correctly. I'm a little bit against that idea because it's probably also going to cost you your second round selection. It's going to cost you both of your top, 50 selections there and Penning in order to move up. So the way that I did it in the Locked On mock is that I made my selection at 14. I waited to see how the board fell. It fell very unfavorably for the Buffalo Bills. And so I actually traded a second, a future third, and Penning for 28 to get back into the first round and 128 later on in the draft. So that's the way that I did it, was that I traded to get a second first round pick because I wanted that cost control, fifth year option. It helps with the Saints salary cap situation, get another player in the trenches, all that. So that's the way that I had done it. My reasoning for doing it, I think, was a little bit different than Bill Barnwell's as well. But let me stop there and then get your thoughts on the idea of trading Penning as if you already address your left tackle spot at 14, which is what I did in that mock. What about trading Penning and that second and a future pick to get another first round pick?
Yeah, I think so. Barnwell's his trade pitch was Penning, 14 and 45 to go up with the Chargers to get to number 5. That is just too rich for my blood. I just don't even see that as even a possibility. I think, get out of here with that. That's just not possible because, again, they haven't given up on Trevor Penning. That's just kind of the ideology. We've been talking about it for months and stuff. So I'm not in favor of that. But at the same time, if it is enticing to get back into the first round, if there's something you see and Penning could be a bargaining chip, that could be a possibility because you get your guy at 14, which we're going to talk about a good bit,
Mhm.
and get you a right tackle because we're going to talk about Ryan Ramczyk and such in a little bit. But get your right tackle, and then if you were to say, I don't know, I don't want to say give up on Penning, but let Penning get a fresh start somewhere, then maybe it is worth exploring that option. But I know teams use the Jimmy Johnson draft pick trade chart, which is kind
Mhm.
of assigns a value for every pick and such. I just don't know if the Saints have enough ammo with Penning and the second, and without having to dip into next year, like
Right.
giving a high pick or something, which I just don't know if that screams what this team should do here. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I get I don't like the trade that he suggested. I don't like that. I think it's too rich, and that would indicate they're probably going to get up and go get Joe Alt, and so I don't. That's not my guy. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah. Right.
We talked about it last week. He's not
Yep.
really that impressive to me, and I think he's going to be great, but uh, just because
The
they
separation
think it's
between
big.
him and the other guys isn't as
Yeah,
steep. You know what I mean?
exactly, and so for me, it's a no. We're billion American Idol. It's a no,
It's gonna be
dog.
no
You
for
know what
me,
I
dog.
mean?
It's gonna be no for
No
me,
for
dog.
me, dog. So no. But again, that's the logic on that. Now play out your other scenario, like you were talking about.
Yeah. So, and by the way, that scenario of trading up to 5 really only works if Minnesota trades up to 4. If Minnesota doesn't trade up to 4, then you're not going to be able to get up into the top 5, competing with 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, and then the quarterback tax that you have to pay. So you need all 4 of the
Mm,
top 4 quarterbacks to go off the board first. Then you can potentially trade up to 5 without paying the quarterback tax. But until then, you got to pay the troll toll, right? You got to be able to do that.
mm,
So you're not going to be able to do it that way. And so my scenario was it got to 28. Buffalo Bills were not pleased with the board. Joe Marino, who hosts Locked On Bills, we were all on a Zoom call together, was like, man, I really don't like the way that this looks for me. This couldn't have gone any worse. And so I said, well, I might be able to help you with that. And so I made the pitch of trading the second and a future second, right? So
mm.
2024 and 2025 second round selections to get up to 28. I knew that wasn't going to be enough, but why start high? So then he asked if there was like a player that I'd be willing to throw in. I mentioned like James Hurst, stuff like that. And then he said, well, what about Penning? And I said, I'll throw Penning in there if you'll do a future third. We settled on that. He also threw in 128. So it got me
Ooh.
into a 4th round selection, got me back into the 1st round. I was able to then make the decision. I had to kind of choose. Do I want to go with one of the edge rushers that's left on the board, like a Marshon Lattimore, for instance? Do I want to go with a defensive tackle that's still there, like a Darius Robinson, who also has inside out versatility? Or do I want to go wide receiver? I could have gone Xavier Legette there too,
Mm,
and not bat an eye. I'd have been perfectly happy with that.
mm-hmm.
But for me, it was like, okay, well, Legette I might be able to get, or a comparable player to Legette I might be able to get at 45. So trading up to 28 is really only about getting the fifth year option. So
Yeah.
not worth my former 1st round pick and next year's 3rd, right?
Yeah.
So I traded back up into the 1st, and then I took Darius Robinson because I feel like Darius Robinson can be a guy that can play inside and out. The Saints need a little bit of help on their interior. He can learn from Cam Jordan. He fits the Cam Jordan mold as a guy that could potentially bounce back to the outside. Might want to drop like a little bit more weight just to pick up a little bit of speed, things like that. But if all that's there, he's phenomenal. And you saw it at the Senior Bowl. His first step is ridiculous. And he's got really good pass rush moves, all those other things. And so I ended up going for him. The reason why I made the decision to trade Trevor Penning, though, wasn't because I don't think Trevor Penning's going to pan out. I think there's a chance that Trevor Penning pans out if he's in the right offense, if he's got the right coaches, all that other stuff. I like the destination of Buffalo for him. You got a veteran offensive line coach over there that could potentially do a lot for him, just like John Benton could potentially do a lot for him here in New Orleans. But I also feel like maybe New Orleans kind of hurt that relationship, maybe hurt that confidence a little bit by
Oh yeah.
effectively moving on from him after 6 games, right?
Yeah. No
And so
question.
here's an opportunity for the Saints to say, you know what? Get a cost control player, another cost control player, reset the clock on that, get that 5th year option on another player. You got your left tackle. I drafted Troy Fautanu in the 1st round. You could replace that with Taliese Fuaga, JC Latham, whoever. Olu Fashanu and Joel were the only ones off the board. So
Fair.
take your top offensive tackle at 14, right? And
Yep.
then I made that move because it was the right thing to do in terms of potentially getting him somewhere where he can get a fresh start. Don't have to worry about repairing that relationship any longer. Let the Buffalo Bills take care of it, and then get back in the 1st round and be able to get that reset on a clock for another guy in the trenches that could be a long time starter for you. So that's the reason why I made the decision, not because I gave up on Penning in that hypothetical scenario, but more so just because it was like, well, I understand what has happened here, and maybe he's going to be better off with a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, I think this is what I would say about Penning. Look, his run support is strong, and I think that when you look at the wide zone and all these things about the Kubiak offense, I think he is going to be a value and asset. And I wonder if things like play action and more motion are going to help him out in the long run.
Yep.
But it's always just the confidence is something that he has to work on, but B, it's just I think he just plays too much in his head. He just needs to go out, and even DA was saying this about oh gosh, who was he talking about at the owners meeting? Isaiah Foskey, golly, brain fart, saying that he just needs to cut it loose. And I don't know if that's the case for Trevor Penning, but I think at the same time, again, like we've been saying, he is somebody that the team hasn't given up on. They want him to be their left tackle. And again, that's why, when Olu Fashanu is the guy that a lot of people have selected in the mocks, I just don't think that that's the direction they're going right now. I think the more pressing need is going to be at right tackle. And so, Fuaga is one of the guys, and obviously Latham, those are the two guys that I think of, or Fautanu, I think those are some of the guys that could be that guy over there. But man, I think Trevor Penning, it's an interesting trade. I'll say that, because if you can get back in the first, I like the 5th round options. Now, given some of the first round picks the Saints have had, in the past,
they don't always work.
Doesn't always work out. Doesn't
That's okay.
work out. Yeah, and so I think if there's an opportunity, you have to at least explore it, because I think when you look at this team's mindset, and there's just so many ways you can look at this. This is why I don't think you trade Marshon Lattimore, because that would just go against what this team is standing for in a way. Because if they're trying to compete for a division, you don't trade away Marshon Lattimore. And if you do make a move like trading a Penning and getting back in the first round, if that's your bargaining chip, I think of the guys on the roster, I'm just trying to think, who else would you be able to trade? I don't think it's a Taysom Hill. I don't think it's Alvin Kamara. And with Lattimore, there's financial implications if you trade him too, that you could wait after the draft and potentially trade him. But I just don't think it makes sense. But who else on the roster would you trade? You know what I mean? Unless you're stacked at the edge position, you say, I want to trade somebody out there. I don't know. I don't know who that might be. If it's a Peyton Turner, I think that could be another wild card, maybe, if you look at him to potentially trade. I just it's all over the place, right? And so the idea of trading him, again, based off of what we know, I don't think that's a realistic possibility, but it could be tempting if somebody is looking. And I think what's going against him this year is it's such a rich tackle draft right now that it's going to be hard to sell somebody on somebody like Penning unless they had an off the charts evaluation of him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point, right? Like, you would have to take Penning and then put him into this class and then figure out where does he rank amongst this class and things like that. And in that hypothetical, I mean, if you've got 28, you're probably going to be able to land a pretty solid offensive lineman there if you're at the bottom of the first round. And what do you get there? You get a 5th round option, right? So that, like, it all works out in that case. I think the thing that is, I'm glad that you brought up the Marshon Lattimore thing, because the thing that I think is so interesting about that exercise with all of it is sort of the idea that, okay, you trade away a player and then you get some type of draft capital back that helps you. But then at the same time, there's always the hesitation around selecting players to fill your immediate needs, because what if they don't? And so the balance isn't always there. And so even in the situation of trading away a Trevor Penning, you're risking trading away Trevor Penning, who has spent, for better or for worse, 2 years in your system now, right? And that is coming in with a little bit more knowledge, coming into a system that I think fits him a lot more. I wrote about that today, actually, over at Saints News Network in my sort of exploration of all the top offensive tackles. And I was talking about, like, the ideal situation for New Orleans is that they draft somebody that can slide in on the right side, just like you mentioned, and give them some insurance, maybe has a versatility to play on the left if they need to, but otherwise is a solid right tackle. And then you hope that Trevor Penning pans out at the left tackle spot. That's the best case scenario for New Orleans.
Yeah,
and I think drafting somebody, just think moving somebody and trying to draft them to replace them, like creating a need to then replace that need. Yeah, you're not sure if you're helping yourself.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, and again, I don't think this is the vision, but you still have guys like Landon Young, who the team is high on. You still have guys like Oli Udo, who's been in this type of offense. He is coming off an injury. You do have a little bit of depth there, but again, you're looking at the starter. This is what you're kind of needing, and of course, whoever they
Yeah, yeah,
draft is not going to be handed the position, right? But at the same
right.
time, looking at the roster, this is a need. And so if you have too many needs, I don't know if this team is, if you say this team has like 4 or 5 needs that they have to come away with this draft, I don't think they're in a compete now mode if you're relying on rookies to do that, right? I
Good
think
point.
maybe they're doing 1 or 2, maybe one. I think that's that offensive tackle. And I think I'd make the argument of a real possession receiver. Those are the 2 that they really
Yeah.
need in this draft. I think a luxury would be a guy on the interior like a Tavondre Sweat or somebody later in the
Hmm.
rounds that you could get, because this is a pretty good defensive tackle class. But again, from a depth perspective, they got some people. I don't know. Again, it doesn't set the world on fire, but it's some of these guys that have played football for them, right? And so
Yeah.
again, it's going to be fascinating to see how everything plays out. But with Lattimore, it's the only other thought process is if they would have traded Lattimore, then Alante's going back on the outside, and then probably Ugo's your nickel guy, and they probably could put other guys in the slot and get a little bit more creative if they wanted to. But I
Hmm.
just don't. I just don't see the Lattimore. It doesn't make sense to me. I know people want to throw it out there like it's something good, but it's just like the people throwing out the Derek Carr crap from the other week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
Yeah,
that
you
stuff.
don't realize that there's a no trade clause, but that's nice that Dallas, you come up with something to talk about. But
I think
it's
that
just
the part that's gonna be really interesting around Marshon Lattimore is that like I could easily see the New Orleans Saints not only drafting, and you wrote about this, but like not only drafting a cornerback in this year's class, but maybe even targeting and trading up for a cornerback in this year's class. And
mm,
when that happens, I think everybody's going to rush to that means that they're definitely dealing Marshon Lattimore post June 1. And I would
yeah,
even disagree with that. I would say that more than likely it's preparation for 2025 because you also got Paulson Adebo in a contract year. So there's a chance
yes,
that
big time.
there's a chance that maybe you don't extend him or you do extend him, but then Marshon Lattimore, like keep him for 2024, and then you reevaluate that process in 2025. Maybe you make the decision to move on. If you do make the decision to move on after the season or something like that, then you have this young corner that's ready to go, whether on the outside or inside. Chris Adams Drain, the slot corner from Missouri, Kyrie Jackson, one of my favorite ball hawking talents. There are not that many ball hawking talents in this year's class. And so
Yeah,
being able to get a guy out of Oregon that can be that 3 interceptions, and then he also had a dropped interception this year, so could have had 4 and allowing 1 touchdown. Like played really well. Physical press man corner, like 6'3", 194 pounds. Like all day in this division, of course. And so I could easily see the Saints maybe selecting a corner in this year's draft, but I don't think that would be indicative of an upcoming trade.
yeah, I don't think so either, just from a sheer numbers perspective, because it's Paulson, it's Marshawn and Alante, and then after that, you got Shamar Jean Charles
Shamar Jean Charles, yeah.
and Rejon White, Wright, I think is the other one,
Hmm.
and so it's just you're going to add, and the UFL is another spot. I mean, there are free agents that are going to be available, but I think a lot of these guys are going to wait till June. I mean, that's just a given. There's some big key names out there. A lot of them are 30 and over, but you could potentially plug in somebody, but after this year, if Lattimore's out and you don't sign Adebo, which I would expect those contract talks to heat up over the next several months, because I mean Adebo played at an unreal level
Oh my
last year. And I think
goodness. Yeah.
you remember the year before, people were actually saying that they should get rid of him.
You should trade him. Yeah.
He was hurt and all this other stuff, and they should get rid of him. I was like, you don't. I mean, this is where when we were in camp, you see a player that's totally different in some aspects and just how he's able to grow and develop. But I just never got that. It's just like you're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks at that point, I guess,
Yeah,
in a
for
way.
real.
But at any
Paulson
rate,
Paulson
yeah,
Adebo
go.
might be my favorite and best draft evaluation hit I've ever had. I thought that dude was a first rounder from the
Yeah,
beginning. Then they had the COVID season that kind of knocked him back and stuff like
yeah,
that. He had a really strong rookie season, took a step back his second year, and then was awesome last year. Like he's just a dude that I think if he plays at the level that he played last year for, let's say, 80% of the next 5 years, you've got a phenomenal cornerback. Like
yeah.
he would be outstanding in that situation.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see what the market is, especially again right
Hmm.
now. There's so many free agent corners that are available, and I mean, we're talking some pretty big names out there and stuff. So it will be fascinating to see if they can try to. I mean, and the Saints try to get some of those deals done. I mean, you look at Carl Granderson or some of the other deals that they try to get done before the season in some aspects. I think it's just one less thing to have to worry about. But this team is also trying to manage their way back to the cap. So I think that's also another thing to keep an eye out for. And maybe it isn't, but I don't think that they could afford to lose both Adebo and Lattimore in the same offseason. I just would, that would be problematic for this team. And so we'll see. But I think at this point, day 3, if they have all those 7 picks, they're going to get a cornerback. They might get 2. Yeah. And, there's some guys that you might look at, but it's not going to be anybody that sets the world on fire. And of course, like we've talked about, special teams could play a part in some of these guys having a higher elevation than some of the other ones too.
That's right. Special teams, special players, special plays. The thing that I really like about, or the thing that I was kind of about to crack wise about was, I don't know if you saw, there was another mock draft out there from another publication that had the Saints selecting 5 wide receivers in this year's draft and 2 cornerbacks, one of which was a corner that went to a school in Canada. He was an international corner.
CFL guy, right?
Yeah. It was a very interesting mock draft. So just I was chuckling when you said, they might even draft 2 corners in this class. I was like, and 5 wide receivers. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, he was
receivers. I'm pretty except for that.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's Quantez something.
Quantez, yes, something. But he's CFL. I think he might be undrafted. I think he could be a later day 3. Maybe he could sneak in the 6th or 7th round, but possibly undrafted. So I mean, it's somebody to keep an eye on. But it's very interesting, to say the least. But yeah, 5 wide receivers and 2 quarterbacks. Wow, that's wild.
I'm going to be very careful with this name. I want everybody to know that's listening on audio that I am black. Quantez Stiggers is the last name. Stiggers, out of Toronto. He's 5'11", 205, 445 speed. He is listed as a 6th round talent according to Dane Brugler's draft guide. So usually like 6th, 7th round gets into like 6'2" PFA or UDFA kind of conversation in there. So I think you're right. And he's one of those guys that's not going to have to say, you glad I said it?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm glad that you prefaced that for some people. And I'm just laughing over here because we're discount Key and Pele at this point right now. So that's what I would say. But it's always good time. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. This stupidity that we bring up sometimes. We're here for the laughs. But going back to it, one of the things I don't say we glance over, but Ryan Ramczyk. We're going to talk to Mickey Loomis at some point this week, right? And so we're going to get a little bit more insight. Not that he's going to tip his hand on draft day. Every type of assistant under the sun, scout, and everybody's going to be talking, on WWL radio. And so it's always an exciting time. And Mickey doesn't give too much, right? I mean, he's not going to give anything away. But I think obviously one of the biggest things to take away, or one of the biggest question marks, is Ryan Ramczyk. And we heard from Dennis Allen at the annual league meetings that it's not going well. And from everything I understand, it's still not going well. And so there's a real possibility that Ryan Ramczyk may not play ever again. It might not just be this season. And so this knee is a degenerative issue, and it's not like it's something that's going to get better. But at the same time, I think this is why when you look at these mocks and when you look at everything that this team is going to need, it's got to be right tackle. And it's unfortunate, but I look forward to getting some type of update. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't anticipate any type of positive movement for Ryan Ramczyk.
That stinks, man. Like, I hope he ends up being all right, just like for himself, right? Like post football, whether that's now or later or whatever. But like, it's just one of those. And yes, very, very good dude, very nice guy, very kind. Yeah, I've heard similar things. It's why yesterday when I did my predictive mock draft over on Locked On Saints, I switched my typical Troy Fautanu pick to Taliese Fuaga in the predictive mock because I was like, I think right tackle is going to be the way that they go. But now this is a little bit more out in the open. I'm a little bit more comfortable talking about it, but it's a challenging thing, man. Like, for a guy who has dedicated, or for anybody who has dedicated their entire life to a sport, to doing a thing, and to have that potentially, or at least on the brink of being taken away from them for something that they can't control, it sucks. It sucks. Like, the human element of it sucks. But from the football side of it, you got to be prepared, because even if there is something miraculous that happens between now and the beginning of the season and he's ready to go, right? Let's just say the best case scenario happens. right? The most unrealistic best case scenario happens. He's ready to go for 2024. Is he going to be ready to go for 2025? Is he going to be able to make it through 2024? Like, I think you have to be prepared for any and all of those circumstances. And that's one of the reasons why I think that, like, going with a guy that has that left side, right side versatility or that right side experience early in this year's draft just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned Fuaga and look, JC Latham is, I've been talking about this
Latham's
guy.
right up there.
One of the things that I've heard about it, and I understand the penalties that he got, is 18 penalties and all the things. Do you think that's a big deal? And bonus question, Fuaga or Latham? Who would you like? I mean, I know you know who I am, but I would not
Yeah.
mind Fuaga at all.
Yeah,
I
for
would love
sure.
him.
Yeah, I think, okay, so on the penalty thing, two of the things that people talk about the most when it comes to draft evaluations that do not translate to the NFL as often are penalties for contested catch percentage for wide receivers and penalties for offensive linemen. Because the offensive line game is called so differently in college. Like if you're a corner and you're grabbing and holding, it's obvious, right? And that's the type of thing that maybe a team will say, maybe not, a little bit too handsy, getting flagged too much, stuff like that. That's a place where you can look at penalties and go, oh, okay, there's something translatable there. When it comes to the offensive line, I don't worry about that as much. So no, I'm with you on that. I don't think that that's as big of a deal. And I also encourage people to not get so enamored with contested catch percentages in college, thinking that it's going to translate one way or another, better or for worse, in the NFL. It's an entirely different skill set in the NFL, believe it or not. And so between Fuaga and Latham, I think I lean a little bit more Fuaga, especially at 14. But look, man, like I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like Fuaga is my guy, but Latham is somebody that I think would absolutely fit, just like how you look at it the vice versa way, right? I think the thing that's really encouraging about Fuaga is that Oregon State offense, which does a lot of zone runs, does a lot of motion, pulls their tackles on counters, mixes in a healthy mix of man with their zone run attack and stuff like that. Like it's just a good scheme fit too. So I think that that's something there. But I mean, Latham is in an offense does a lot of the split flow zone release stuff. Maybe not a full on zone run, but they do a lot of split flow zone. They do a lot of duo, which I think is important. If you want to know what duo is, go and watch how the Rams carved up the Saints or carved up really anybody in the run game last year with those duo runs. It was incredible. They were so good there. And that was also one of the things that Shanahan added to his offense last year was a duo run. So I could see some of that maybe come here to New Orleans. So I think in both cases, if you have the scheme fit, I think the biggest thing is just about your preference of athleticism and what can be shown there and how you feel about arm length. If you're all about arm length, Latham's your guy. If you're okay with taking a guy with 33 and an 1/8 inch arms, then you're good with Fuaga. I'm okay with that at the right side. Ramczyk is sub 34-inch arms too. Coming out of college and played incredibly well on the right side. But if you really like length, then Latham's your pick.
Yeah. Fuaga was a 9.71 on his RAS too. I mean, you always got to, and Latham doesn't have one, right? Because of all the things. And I think that's obviously a little bit of a concern or maybe a flag. And then I think there's been some issues where people have talked about his effort on the field and stuff, but you're about to play in the NFL. I mean, I don't know that I'd get too hung up on some of that, but I think Latham is my dream pick, right? I think so, but I think the logical pick right now, if we're going to the podium and we do our mock, and if Fuaga is there based off of the information, that's probably who I would take for sure. And so, this is a good one. So to segue or not segue, but talk all this tackle talk is a smoke screen for Bowers is the pick. I think Penning will be okay with better O-line coach. I agree. Hot take. Rams going to be okay. It's all smoke screen. I don't believe the Ramczyk one, but Brock Bowers, man, we've talked about him. If he's there at 14, that is going to be hard for the Saints to pass up.
Pass.
You pass. You totally pass. Well, I say that because we've talked about, you said Theo Johnson, Jatavian Sanders here. You could get Eric All late, I think is another one. If his medicals don't scare you, I think he's at day 3, somebody that you can get. But it is interesting if a Bowers is on the board at 14 somehow.
Yeah, it does get interesting. I'm cracking wise over here. I'm having a good time. But you're right. I mean, it does create intrigue. I still maintain that the Saints are just not in a position to burn a first round pick on a tight end that's going to take 2 years to have an impact. Like, I don't see that being the case. Like, tight end is so hard to transition to at the next level. and everything, that like you have to learn how to play an entirely different position at the next level, unless you're not going to use him as a tight end. You know what I mean? If you're going to Kyle Pitts him, then sure. But even still, Kyle Pitts went over 1,000 yards receiving his first season and did nothing for the Atlanta Falcons in the win-loss column and everything. Yep. And so like, I want the guys that are going to bring you wins. I don't think that a tight end brings you wins. And I think that's true for even some of the top tight ends we see in the league right now.
Yeah, and I hate to be that guy, but this is a team that traded away a whole bunch of things to get Adam Troutman, and
an entire day three's worth of picks.
Yeah. He wasn't it, man. So I say that to say, keep that in mind, that I don't know that it's a surefire thing. And again, we've talked about this before. Check out previous episodes. We've talked about Juwan Johnson. He said that they need to answer the question, is he going to be that guy? We know Foster's more of the blocking tight end, and then you still got Taysom in the mix. But outside of that, it's kind of some practice squad guys. So I think there are reasons to add to this room. Bowers, it's just intriguing, but it's just like one of those things where you're like, I know the right pick, but at the same time, the shiny object toy is right here in front of me. And it's got to be tempting. The Saints have got to weigh that out, because you mentioned it before. Second round, you can get somebody at 44, like your guy Sumatai from out of BYU. I always butcher his name, but yeah, what were we saying about Clancy Barone?
I was about to say, I mean, like I bet Clancy Barone will be really happy with the Brock Bowers. Don't get me wrong, like you got one of the best. You got maybe the best tight end prospect that we have seen in some time, and then one of the best tight end coaches in the history of the league. Yeah, sure. I bet Clancy Barone would be stoked to have Brock Bowers.
Yeah,
probably be up there on the table for him.
I think 31 other teams for sure besides the Saints, but man, it's I mean, again, it begs the question. It's interesting. And of course, look at the history. I mean, like Travis Kelce was a 3rd round pick. I mean, again, the Saints don't have a 3rd or 4th round right now. And that's what's so hard, is because if you had a 3rd and a 4th, I think it could better position these guys, because I would say a 3rd rounder or 4th rounder on a guy like a tight end spot. I like it. But, when we did our mock last week, I took Jatavian Sanders in the 2nd round, and he probably could go later, but I like his upside. I like his everything, right? And so it's going to be fascinating, but we're about to get into our mock now, which is going to be quite interesting, I'd say. Anything you want to discuss while I get this thing set up and give it some fill out?
Yeah, I will talk. Oh, we should talk wide receiver a little bit. Like I would talk like wide receiver and edge rusher, right? Like when we're talking about some of these like needs and stuff like that and stuff, like edge rusher maybe isn't as much of a need as it is just like a core want at this point. I agree with you that defensive tackle is a little bit more of like a luxury. Like, can you find that guy? And you could probably find somebody. You could trade up to the 2nd or to the 3rd. You can 3rd or 4th. You could find somebody in the 5th. A guy like Christian Boyd out of University of Northern Iowa, actually, Trevor Penning's alma mater. He was a guy that came in on a top 30 visit, spent some time with the Saints too. So there's a few of those guys, McKinley Jackson out of Texas A&M. Like you can find some of these guys later on in the draft that I think would be helpful. Wide receiver is still the one that's really interesting. I think the best fit at wide receiver, in my opinion, for New Orleans, is in terms of who's realistic. Is Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, because he can line up outside and give you that possession X receiver, but he also has the run after catch ability too. That's a lot of fun. And so he's the guy, I think, along with Malachi Corley, that's like a perfect fit for what it is that New Orleans Saints might be.
Yeah, I give you another name just because he's been really hot lately, is Mason Smith out of LSU. Yeah. I think that's another one to keep an eye out on 45. And of course, again, Saints don't draft LSU players or anything like that, or and of course that obviously comes out, but that's another one to keep in mind, I would say. Yeah, you were going to say something.
I was saying we got the draft guide is up on the website at NewOrleansSaints.com now, and I was looking at the draft guide earlier, and it's like it's 17, 14, 12, 10. So I think that like LSU is among the group of the team of the university that has the 4th most selected players from it.
Yeah,
actually, over the history of the Saints draft, but a lot of that's like early New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, it's actually interesting, and shout out to the Saints PR staff for getting this together. But actually, the school, I have the list in front of me. All-time picks by school: Nebraska, USC, and Ohio State 17. That's 17, the leader.
Yeah.
Notre Dame is 14. Tennessee's 12. They're quite good and undrafted. They had a lot of guys there. 11 is Florida State, Michigan, and Wisconsin. 10 is where LSU falls. You got Florida, Georgia, LSU, and Oklahoma. So pretty interesting, I'd say. All-time pick by school. So, again, what we're going to see at this draft is going to be fun. And so we know they have 14. We know they have 45. Beyond that, they don't pick again until the 5th round, and they've got 5 5th-round picks. Or no, 4 5th rounds, excuse me.
Phone them, thanks.
Oh, yeah, they got 150, 168, and then they're back on the clock at 170, then at 175 because those are all compensatory picks. 6 rounds at 190, 6th round from Philly is 199, and then they got that 7th rounder from Denver for 239. So I don't think they're going to make 9 picks. How many picks do you think this team is actually going to make? That's a good question while I get this thing set up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think 7 or 8 makes sense. Like I could see them packaging a couple of those 5th round picks to move up to get into like the 120s area. I look at I think Washington's got like 120 or something like that. Like I could see a potential move up to there. And then maybe like a future, 6th and one of the 6th round picks or one of the 5th round picks to get a little bit further up in the 5th round or something like that. Like you can see that kind of move, those kinds of moves happening. I think there's a lot of people that have said about how like the Saints have to make as many selections as possible. And there's kind of that spaghetti at the wall, kind of approach. But for me, if you just go out there and draft 10 players and you try your best without moving around, or only moving back or trading next year's picks and things like that, like you kind of get stumped if only 3 of those guys make your roster. Like you're better off going out there and specifically targeting a lesser amount of players that you think will work out. Because if you draft 10 and 3 pan out, you draft 4 and 4 pan out, you're better off drafting the 4, right? But it's just part of the draft crapshoot, right? You just never know exactly how it's going to go.
There is no surefire thing. I remember it was a Cleveland Browns like TV station where they said, here's the things to avoid, like surefire pick or this guy's a lot, all sorts of things. It's the most hilarious thing I think I've seen in a while. But oh man, this is gonna be fun, Ross. We're gonna do this is courtesy of PFF. We're gonna do all 7 rounds. I'm gonna make it not fast because the fast is like, and so we'll get it to the medium. I guess we're going to use a public board input here. Care for positional value. It's toward the lesser side. Do you want to see more on that or less is more?
I don't know how much these settings.
I don't know.
Really change.
I'm just going to go with the regular one.
Unless you do something crazy with it. What I mean?
The randomness factor. I mean, that would be like seeing, a
Michael
straight up for quarterback or something.
Overall.
Golly, come on now. All right, so we're going to start with this, and obviously we'll go run through it, and we'll see how it goes. So let's go ahead.
Are we doing trades, or are we just making these selections?
Let's do this first one with no trades, and if we've got some time while we're doing this, we'll do one and see about trades. But obviously, we'll look at this. Saints have got some picks in 2025, so all sorts. Oh, there goes Dallas Turner. There goes Fuaga.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're on the board. So last picks before Terrion Arnold, Brock Bowers, Olu Fashnu's already went. Taliese Fuaga went number 10 to the Jets. Interesting. That's pretty bad if Fashnu and Fuaga are both off the board there. That's tough.
This is where I would
begin. But
yeah, this is where I would begin the process of potentially trading back if I really wanted to, but we know that's not a thing that the New Orleans Saints will do. So, John, I think this is perfect for you, buddy, because this means your guy's on the board. And he's probably the best option.
Yeah. So you're looking at Cooper DeJean or Dijon, however you want to pronounce it. Quinyon Mitchell, Latu, Newton, which is really interesting. Murphy, I think those are 2 that are really intriguing. You got Fautanu and JC Latham. Here's one to toss up because I've been seeing a little bit more of him. What are your thoughts on Amarius Mims? Because I've seen him a lot more as a sneaky one that most people are like, okay, it's Fashanu, it's Fautanu, it's Fuaga.
Yeah.
But I've seen some with Amarius Mims. What's your take on him?
Yeah, Mims is incredible when it comes to his measurables, measurements, stuff like that. 6'7", 340-ish pounds. He's got I think he measured in 35-inch arms, maybe 36-inch arms. So just incredible tools and traits, but 6 games of starting experience over his time in Georgia. I don't think that the Saints are in a position right now with what they need on their offensive line to take another project. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
my
I
only
agree.
concern when it comes to Mims. Otherwise,
No
like on
project.
a standard year, it felt like he would be the pick 100%. But they need a guy that's going to be able to start.
I give one more to you because this is something Fletcher Mackel, good friend of ours at WSU, he took Graham Barton from Duke. What's the story on him? And I don't see that, but what's the
Yeah, I don't
story
see
on him?
Graham Barton. I don't see Graham Barton going 14. The thing that is interesting and intriguing about him is that I think a lot of NFL teams see him as somebody that can move inside.
Right.
And so maybe the versatility is something there. But if I'm going to go with a Graham Barton because he can move inside, then I'd rather go with Troy Fautano, who's got a better chance at panning out on the outside than to me Graham Barton does, especially with the athleticism and all those other things. I like what Graham Barton brings if I'm looking for a tackle in the second round and he's there. He's not a guy, though, that I'm jumping at 14 for.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, you look at teams below. I mean, if you could pull off a trade, we'll explore that. But I think there are some teams behind the Saints. If they get hungry enough and want to jump somebody, this could be a spot where you trade back. But again, the Saints don't trade back. Maybe they break the norm this year. So it's out of, for me, Fautanu and Latham, and you know where I'm siding on this one, right?
Let's do
So
it. Let's do it.
okay.
I think that's right. I mean, based upon like where things are going and where things are trending with Ryan Ramczyk, you need to start at right tackle right now, and you're going to get it in JC Latham.
Yeah, I agree. And so, well,
Especially with Fuaga off the board already.
right. Yeah, that would be tough. You know what I'm saying? Is both of those guys off the board already, but I don't think that's a bad thing because you see kind of how this board shapes up. So we'll simulate booze for the commissioner as he announces the pick. The Saints select of Alabama, JC Latham at 14th. Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
back
So
to your
now
hole.
yeah, exactly. I know. Hey, he loves to egg it on too. How he
Oh,
loves
he
to.
enjoys it.
Ooh, your guy Leggett just went earlier. Oh,
Ooh, almost made it.
he went at 37 to the Chargers, which would make sense. The
Oh,
Chargers need wide receivers.
that's a good spot.
Patrick Paul's another sneaky one too from Houston. I think that's an interesting one.
He
And
actually
Jordan Morgan.
told,
I like Morgan.
yeah, I do too. Patrick Paul actually told U Stadium that he wouldn't be surprised to hear his name called, quote, late Thursday. So
That's
he
fun.
says that there are teams out there that look at him as a top 32 guy.
All right.
So we'll see.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna just go ahead and axe everybody that would think it, but no Michael Penix Jr. We're not doing that. All right, so wide receiver, you got Troy Franklin for Oregon. You've got Tyler Nubin. We've talked
That's
about
tempting.
reuniting him with Jordan Howden. That would be
that's
pretty.
tempting.
Adissa Isaac, Keon Coleman, Roman Wilson, Coleman and Wilson. There's my guy Jatavian Sanders just staring me in the face. This is another one, and you've talked about Fiske. We talked about him last week about not really a big. We're not too high on him. Ricky Pearsall, that's another one that I've seen a lot of people varying opinions. But if you want to talk about Fiske, go ahead. But Pearsall, that's one I want to get some more insight on.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief on Fiske so that our good friend Jordan doesn't beat us up. But Fiske is a guy that like was one of those dudes that just kind of jumped off the field at the combine and therefore got like really excited and everything like that. And I get that. But the short arms scare me, particularly for a guy on the interior. Doesn't feel like he has like the block shed, the pass rush moves really there yet, stuff like that. I think there are way more polished defensive tackles in this class, but his athleticism is the thing that kind of like lifts him above. And that's just the hype of the combine. That's what Trey Wingo once called with me the draft industrial complex at work.
Yeah, those initials. That's funny. Oh man, we're having a fun time here. Okay, so this is an interesting conundrum because again, we're not doing trades here, but at 45, if you look at the board, we're looking at wide receivers. There's a tight end there, and you got the safety. You know, if you're looking at the interior, Chris Jenkins is another one that's on here. You know, there's edge. This is a little bit interesting, I would say. And so if we look at the interior, you know, Rook's still there. Obviously, that'd be another one to think about. My guy Tavondre is obviously there. You know, I'm really fascinated to see where he's going to go. But
yeah, I'm curious to see how his stock goes.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see. And so again, it'll be fun when we get to the trade side. But what are you thinking on this pick? Newman is so appealing to me in so many ways because I mean, Tyron's 2 more years, and Howden. I mean, they could still bring in Justin Simmons. It's the shiny red ball that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, and second round is like defensive back round for the New Orleans Saints typically,
Yeah.
so it makes a lot of sense there.
Marcus
So the
Williams,
guys, yeah, right. The guys that stand out the most for me here are Keon Coleman,
yeah, that's where I was
Tyler, Tyler Nubin. I actually really like Ricky Pearsall. He's not going to be an X receiver, but man, he just creates separation like crazy. And he doesn't have to just be a slot guy. He can be a Z guy on the opposite side, put Chris Olave over at the X, all those other things. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can make it all work. But man, Ricky Pearsall is a really, really talented dude.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that kind of stand out the most.
We want to hear from the community what you guys are thinking too as we go along this. But yeah, it's just you're looking at this and it's like I think do you pull the trigger on Malachi Corley?
Yeah, that's the other. Like I don't think anybody would bat an eye on. Yeah, like I would not bat an eye at Corley at 45 either. So, but I think in terms of like what the mold that the New Orleans Saints are looking for as like this possession receiver, it feels like Keon Coleman is the one that maybe fits that mold a little bit more. Adisa Isaac, another really good and talented pass rusher. That's a good run defender as well. It tested well. Like him. I mean, it's the good thing here is that we took the tackle in the first round because as you can see, not many tackle options out there right now. I think we'd have to go all the way down to Yale's Kieran Amageji in order to be able to really get somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm in between Keon Coleman and Tyler Nubin. And wide receiver obviously is the bigger need of the two.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's got to be wide receiver, and Corley is tempting. But we talked about this last week too. Rashid Shaheed, I don't want to say he can be that guy, but they kind of have somebody that they could use like a Corley. But I mean, Corley's obviously compared a lot to Deebo Samuel, but we answered that question a little bit last week. And so I think the pressing need is a possession guy. I would agree with you on Coleman. I think that's where you would want to go in this one.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right.
Somebody in the chat asking, what about Adisa Isaac? I think he's good. Don't get me wrong. But I think that for the needs of this draft and where the Saints are and what they need, you can find another really good edge rusher later. Whereas this type of possession wide receiver, this quintessential X wide receiver, doesn't exist very much in this draft. And Isaac is a little bit under the threshold, 6'4", 247 pounds. And so I'm down with Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I think this is it. I think Roman Wilson is a little bit interesting as well, but I think is Coleman has got to be the guy here. I mean, in these first two picks, you're solving two of the biggest needs that you have for this team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're solving the right tackle spot and a possession guy, and so I think it makes the most sense. Now we wait forever and a day.
This is where we should have gone turbo.
Yeah, this is the part where when we sit. When we sit in the we're gonna go turbo.
Oh, I didn't realize you can adjust it. That's excellent.
Technology is a heck of a thing.
Oh, that's so good. That didn't used to be a thing. You would have to like stop, change it, and then jump back in and start all over.
Yeah.
That's
we're gonna slow it down
for
now
people
a little bit.
People that are listening. I'm just excited that PFF added the speed control internally to the draft so you can change the speed throughout. So don't worry about me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so it'll be a very boring time between then when they make 45 and then no action on day 3 till 150. Hopefully that changes. But now we're back on the clock. We've got a lot of picks here in the next 25. So now we're at 150. A couple of guys that are here. Let's see. Gabriel Murphy, linebackers. Jaquan Jackson. That's an interesting one too, but doubling up on one. Jaheim Bell.
He was one of those 5 wide receivers that other publication took. Oh, Tyler Davis. Good interior.
Yep.
And I do like Gabriel. I do like Gabriel Murphy. That was up there, the UCLA edge rusher.
So I guess let's think of what position do you think we are looking at here? I think it's really a toss up, but
yeah, we're about to have like 4.
Yeah, and so it's really one of those things where if you're looking at in the 4th or here in the 5th round, I mean, you could really decide on one guy, and then it'll matter once you get to 168. It won't matter until you get to 168 because you're making picks like one right after another one. But what do you think about corner here?
Okay, so I
Another
was going
wide
to say
receiver? I don't know. That's
one of the guys that. Oh, hold on now. Let's not start the transition to drafting your 5 wide receivers now.
no, it's not.
One of the one of the guys that I do like in this group is DJ James. He's just undersized, 5'11", 175 pounds. So the part of him that's undersized is the weight, which you can control, right? You can add weight there. 12 passes defended last year, 5 career interceptions. So I wouldn't call him a ball hawk, but absolutely has some ball skills, I would definitely say. Really, this is one of the ones, I think he was flagged only like 1 time for pass interference last year, which is really good. So this is one of those spots where you can take penalties and look at the translatable system. Scheme versatile type of player. And he's quick, which I really like too. I think he ran in the 4.4, like 2.4.43 or something like that. In that area. So DJ James is really intriguing here. Christian Jones is really intriguing here. This would be one of those spots. Now we don't actually have to take him, but this is one of those spots where, this is one of those spots where, like, if you didn't take a offensive tackle early, like you could find one in the 5th round, which is Christian Jones or Javon Foster out of Missouri. Sorry, I had to grab that one out of thin air for a second.
Yeah.
So there are
you
some
got
options.
Javon Foster here. I like Foster too. I think that's another one. And some of these guys, as you get later down here, there's still some interesting players. And I don't think they have everybody listed here because there's some HBCU guys, there's some FCS guys and stuff that probably aren't represented on some of this. But man, I don't know that there's at this point. I think James is probably the pick. I like the cornerback. Look, Opelousas native Keon Coleman. While we're
That's
looking
right.
here.
That's true. That's true. I don't mind Tyler Davis either, though, the Clemson defensive lineman. I think he's down a little bit. He's a guy that I also really, really like. Isaac Garendo is really good. I do like him.
Yeah, that's another one.
It's
a good question because I've wrote about this, but running back, I think is to bring another person on in the room. I don't hate that idea. I think that is a legitimate thing to think about, but also I think there's still a good bit of running backs that, sleeper running backs or somebody again, like Isaiah Davis from South Dakota State or a Jarvion Howard from Alcorn. I really want to know where he's going to go because I really like Jarvion in this one. But man, I think, are we in agreement? You think James is the pick here? Or is there something else that I'm looking at or maybe an edge guy?
I just don't think the value for pass rusher is here right now. There's a later pass rusher that I would target around 190 or so. Brennan Jackson out of Wazoo. So here it feels like either DJ James or Tyler Davis for me are the two. I do like Cedric Gray as well, the linebacker out of North Carolina, but I don't know that you need to run for a linebacker right now. Punter.
I'm not saying that I'm going to, but this is an interesting name, Tory Taylor. I just don't know if the Saints will draft a punter, obviously, and of course Lou Hedley. Nobody is really a big fan. It seems like fan wise, at least there, and so Tory Taylor is somebody I would keep an eye out on later. Maybe if they decide. I don't think that would be a bad thing to draft a punter, just because he's similar style and stuff, and so I think that's something. I think James is the pick. I would say James. Let's do it.
We're gonna be right back.
We'll be back in 10 picks. See who all went. Not too many. Jaquan went, so there's that. All right.
Oh, Zach Zinter. That's tough to pass up.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think interior is another area that they got to look at because look at you got James Hurst and they're set on the right side with Caesar, obviously, but the left guard spot. I think as of right now, you're looking at it, it's going to be James Hurst, right? And so if not, they don't know what they have in Nick Saldiveri yet. And so they have some other guys like a Tommy Kramer and then, Mark Evans, who they had on the practice squad. And so I think guard is a spot where, again, you look at offensive linemen, I think guard is a realistic thing. You're going to come away with at least an offensive tackle, and I think you got to look at a guard too. You have
Yeah,
to.
I think so. I completely agree with that. And I like the reason why I like Zinter. He's played most of his time at right guard, but that's one of those ones where even the asking the right-handed pitcher to pitch left on the interior is usually okay. And then I like him because he relies on technique a lot. He's not a guy that is like completely, he's not super explosive. He's not one of those guys. He's not going to be relying a lot on his like natural ability and therefore nothing to fall back on. He's got his fundamentals down though. And he's really, really like rule oriented. And I like that in a smart player like a Zach Zinter.
Yeah, I don't think
he's
there's
fun to
too
watch
much,
on tape too.
There's not much guessing. If this is how it plays out, and we're gonna pick again in just a second. So it's like you definitely could scoop up Zinter here. I don't think there's any question about that. That's who I would take
and
too.
A good question from Paul about the injuries and things like that. That's obviously a big thing. You'd have to wait and you'd have to know what the medicals were. So we're going to assume here as the new, acting as the New Orleans Saints that we got positives in the medicals. If you get negatives in the medicals, you pass. So you probably go Javon Foster here instead or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think about it. Like, I mean, they knew about Kendre's injury, and all that good stuff. And so I think that's another thing to think about, that some of these guys they're going to be there just because of the medicals and stuff. Okay. So after the Packers pick, we're back on the clock, and we're looking at kind of the same things here. I mean, we're looking at the same type of board that we have here. You said Javon Foster. I don't know. And then I see Torrey Taylor, a punter. I'm not above that. Miles Cole. What do you think about Miles Cole?
I like Miles Cole. He's got good length and everything, which I know is something that the Saints absolutely love. I think that's something that obviously they always really like in their guys and everything. He comes in at, I want to make sure his numbers are right, because he played at Louisiana Monroe before he transitioned over to, where he transferred over to Texas Tech. 6'6", 278. I mean, he is the prototype. The issue with him is lack of production. 5 career sacks.
Yeah.
And everything. And so like, that's one of those things where you kind of go, well, I'd like to see that number up a little bit higher. So he's got all the really, really good like traits and everything like that and measurables. He just doesn't have the production and the honed thing. I'll tell you who I really like here, honestly, is Katano Ladapo, the safety out of Oregon State.
I mean, safety would make sense.
Yeah. Big guy, can play down in the box really, really well. He's not super fast, but I think that's okay. If you can at least just change direction in the box, I think you're okay there. And in a split safety situation, that's all right, because ideally nobody's getting behind you either. So the 2 guys that stand out the most to me in terms of who's on the board right now are Katano Ladapo and Cody Schrader, the running back out of Michigan. Nope. Yeah. Running back out of Missouri. My bad.
Missouri. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I like the idea of a safety, and the safety group is not like, it's not setting the world on fire. You know what I'm saying? But here in this round, and just adding a defensive back to the room, I think that's a logical thought process on it. So I don't have any opposition. I think that's it.
Let's do it.
Back on the clock.
Oh man, that's really quick. Look at that.
Imagine if it went that quickly on actual draft.
I know, right?
All right, so some of the guys in the chat have said Garindo from Louisville. That's one that, I don't know. That could be an interesting one to take.
He is another one of those, got his draft stock raised big time by the combine and all those other things. But man, was he productive in college, and he can do a little bit of everything. Good zone runner, everything as well. Can catch out of the backfield. We can go first team all name with Steel Chambers. What a name.
Yeah, what a name. And of course, it's the Ohio State guy, right? I mean,
yeah, of course.
Keep up with the mantra and stuff. I mean, Javon Foster's still out there. I don't know, man. It's just like, that's what's staring me, is like thinking about take another offensive lineman. Do you go with another O-line? I mean, I just
I would rather take another offensive lineman here than a running back here. Knowing I can get a good running back in the 6th.
Yeah, I don't know that Garindo was going to go, but I mean, he probably could go before 190. But man, I'm just looking at this board, and if I'm picking right now, it's got to be Foster.
Let's do it.
I'm just looking through it. I'm not.
Foster's one of my. He's one of my
very
favorite,
underrated.
Yeah, linemen in this class, easily.
All right.
Let's see what we
So
got
now back up. Here's your punter. Grindo is still on the board, so that's interesting. A running back. All right, so we're looking at things. What do you think about Tip Riemann? Because I've seen him a little bit, and Dylan Lobb. Anything that you like?
Yeah.
Riemann's more of like a blocker to me. I don't know if he's going to set the world on fire, but
Yeah, he is. He's absolutely a blocker. And I think he could fit. I mean, I think he'd be a fun selection. I don't know that he's somebody that comes in and has an immediate impact at all, but I don't think you draft tight ends expecting an immediate impact anyway, their rookie seasons. But I do like him a lot. I like the fact that he can block because then it'll help him transition to the game a little bit quicker. And everything. So I'm not mad at that. I also really like Dylan Lobe, who did visit with the Saints, did a top 30. Another good pass catcher out of New Hampshire. A little bit of not as good a zone runner as Isaac Grindo, but still a solid back.
Yeah, and I was looking at interior.
About him earlier.
Yeah, I've seen that. So you, if you go down a little bit more, as your guy, Jordan Jefferson, that could be somebody at 199 potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Are we thinking running back here though? Are we thinking that
I'm all about Grindo here.
Grindo? I'm looking at this again. I'm looking at the board, and I'm going to tell you, if Torrey Taylor's still hovering around there, I think if you're the Saints, you might just look. You just might. I don't know if it's going to be popular, but you just might. Let's go, Grindo to the walls. All right, back up 199, coming down the final stretch.
Oh, so now we're kind of Torrey Taylor's gone. So now you don't have to talk. We don't have to deal with punters anymore.
Yeah, let's see who took him. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Good job. Here we go, Steelers. All right. So now we're back up here. Man, now it's we're thinking linebacker, maybe a linebacker, maybe the interior. Let's can see who we've got. Again, looking at Jordan Jefferson here.
There's Christian Boyd as well.
Christian Boyd is here. Man, I don't know if that's going to be if that's actually going to be somebody that's there, but that's interesting.
I see folks saying James Williams at safety. We already took Caetano Ladapo at safety, who's effectively the same player.
Yeah.
Like they're both very, very similar in terms of like guys that'll probably transition to linebacker at some point in their life. They're both those guys. I do like James Williams a lot though. James Williams could transition to linebacker like yesterday if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Any standout edge rushers?
That's what I'm looking at. Is there's
it's not necessary, but I'm just curious. Oh, there is Jalen Green. So Jalen Green is really interesting. He's that undersized James Madison edge rusher that was super productive in college and could be the way to make good on what the Saints didn't do with Zach Bond, and getting him kind of immediately into.
I took him. Sorry. Whoops.
Oh, that's all
easy. I liked it. I just liked the concept of what you were talking about. So we keep talking.
I love it. Was it Green that you took?
Yeah, I took you, boy. I took you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Yeah. Then definitely. Yeah. He's just one of those dudes that like as an undersized guy.
You said Zach Bond, and I was like, oh yes, you need something like that. Because that is a need they got to fill out. They got to find that guy.
Yeah.
All right. So I jumped the gun. Sorry about that, folks.
No, that's okay.
False start on Hendricks.
Look at Joe Milton just chilling right there. Look at Joe Milton just hanging out.
All right, just 239. We're talking getting close to.
Can we get five quarterbacks on the roster? This is actually where I
five Taysom Hill.
So that's right. That's right. Can we get 6 quarterbacks on the roster? This is where I really actually like a little bit of the linebacker class, depending upon who's hanging around at this point. Dallas Gant, for instance, out of Toledo is a guy that I like. Jalen Ford.
Jontre Hunter is a guy that I kind of like too.
Yeah, I like him too.
Georgia State, very underrated. But
Dallas Gant is an Ohio State transfer to Toledo. So you get a little bit of that Buckeye bloodline in there. Jalen Ford, and then is Anthony Parker Jr. on the board somewhere. He would be out of App State.
Let's see.
App State linebacker. No, he's off the board already. That makes sense. Jalen Simpson, that safety right there, is one of the other ball hawks in this class.
He might not be listed. I don't know if he actually went. Some of they don't have everybody listed here. So that's the
I'm
other
sorry.
part.
PFF, is my draft knowledge too deep for you? My sincerest apologies. No, I'm just kidding.
Rip.
PFF's the
That's
goat.
okay. I think linebacker does make sense though.
Yeah. Tell us about your guy to Georgia State.
Yeah, I think what I like about him, and it's again, he's just somebody that you look at his tape, and Jontre he has a lot of desirable traits, right? And so I think he's somebody that you can use in that bond situation. And I'm in favor of getting him, another guy like that. And so, and I look at special teams too. I'm really fascinated to see how that's going to stack up. Now, of course, you look at some of these deeper scores, like against LSU, he didn't play too good. And but other games he had some good ones, but guy that can stop the run, guy that can really more excel as a pass rusher. And so again, he's a very intriguing prospect to me. But that's kind of where I'm looking at some point. But again, we just took somebody there. So
yeah, but I think like with the kid out of James Madison, you're really looking at a guy that's a little bit more of like not a full-time pass rusher, but like when he gets out on the field, you're utilizing him as a speed pass rusher. Whereas maybe like a Jontre comes in and helps out on special teams and stuff like that a little bit more, a little bit more, especially guys that, you kind of mentioned his pursuit. Like if I remember correctly, he ran like a 4.9, he ran like a 4.91 or something like that. So he's like, he's a little bit slower, a little bit more like, he's a little bit like less explosive, but man, if you can pursue, you're going to make a living on special teams. And so I
6'2", 205 is where he's at. Yeah. And so, again, it's one of those, you're in the 7th round. It's not like it's a big thing. This is a good one because I don't see any of these guys on here.
Sundiata Anderson. Yeah.
Yeah. That is one that I really like too. The HBCU. I don't see a lot of these on PFF's board. So some of the guys like Jarvion Howard and stuff like that, or any of the other ones, I don't see them here. And so I don't know what's up with that, PFF. Why don't you have everybody? Supposed to have everybody. I'm even just going down just to make sure there's nobody.
Evan Anderson, 7 sack season on the interior at Florida, not Florida A&M. I'm sorry. We're talking HBCUs. Florida Atlantic.
That's okay. HBCUs deserve some love for sure.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So I guess we're looking at linebacker edge again. That's where we're thinking.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Is that
Man, I'm really fascinated.
That UConn pass rusher?
Eric Watts?
Yeah, Eric Watts. I think he's a dude that's like super long.
Let's see if they got.
He'd be like the opposite of Jalen Green. He is 6'5", 274 with 35 3/4 inch arms.
That's nuts. It's out of control.
Length, ending with an F. Length.
Length
for days.
Yep. All right. Well, let's make this pick. What are you thinking? I think Jontre, that's one, but obviously, look, I would take Eric Watts too. I was
gonna say if you feel that the edge rusher we just took out of James Madison and Jontre are like kind of in the same conversation, then let's go Eric Watts because he's the prototype guy.
Yeah, that's what I think out of UConn. Okay, cool. All right, so
by the way, at 6'5", 274, he ran a 4.67 40. So that's pretty.
There's another
good.
Zarian Hayes. I don't think they have. No, he's a good one there too, but I don't think that they had any of those HBCU ones. But those are guys that are worth drafting for sure. All right, Ross, let us see how we did. And don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, for starter, or for mention that. Okay.
It's clearly
JC Latham, B+, Keon Coleman, A. DJ James, they didn't like your pick. Zach Zinter, B. Tan Aladapo. I can't
This looks like names. My report. This legit looks like my report card from high school. It's incredible. It's literally just
a lot of
and
B's
C's.
late. B's later. Yeah, the round 5s, but Javon Foster, Isaac Garendo, Jalen Green, Eric Watts. So I think when you look at it, 3 offensive linemen, couple of edge guys, and you got a running back, you got a wide receiver that fits a need, and somebody in the secondary, and obviously, 2 people in the secondary, a corner and a safety. Overall, a B+ is what they give us.
I'll take it. D's get degrees. I'll take a B+ all day. That's basically an A.
Yeah, I mean, shoot. Do you need any more? Do you need to say any more? All right. So you want to go do this one more time with the trades?
Yeah, we could do a couple little trades. Little trades.
All right. Let's see. Because I'm really fascinated to see about the situation with Fashanu and Fashanu already off the board and Fuaga. That was pretty nuts. All right, let us kick this thing off.
We got a vote of confidence in the chat on the draft. I love it.
All right.
Bob will take it.
Bob, sweet. Love it. Appreciate the support, Bob.
Do we want to do the trades now, or do we want to try to do them in the moment?
If you're trading, we're clearly establishing we're not trading up. Right. We're not trading up, so I don't think so. But
cool.
Let's just see what happens when we come through. Pull through. Let's go. No surprises. So Latham already went to 12 at Denver. Sean Payton. All right. So now the board looks a little bit different. So
now
we got
here's where it's interesting.
and Fashanu all and Mims. So you've got your pick of the litter. Let's just look and see what the trades are. So Eagles. Let's see.
It's just going to tell you that they're interested.
Yeah. Eagles are interested.
That's all. They don't make any proposals.
Golly, I don't want to trade with the Eagles. That's not really a good track history, too.
But I'm
22,
good.
Going down to 22.
There's no need to trade back. I mean, we could do it. We could if we wanted to. Like, what could we get? So let's do like 14 and 22. I'll consult the trade chart.
Well, I'm thinking if I did it, I would ask for 50 back, 50 or 53.
Give me that. You get to right the wrong, John.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to right
That's what I'm all about. Yes.
So 22 and 50 would total up to 1,180 total points, according to the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. Saints at 14 are 1,100 even. So it's an 80-point differential, which is
not bad.
Pretty good.
What if it's 53? If they don't want to budge with 50, what is 53? I think that might swing it a little bit.
Yeah, 53 would get it a little bit closer to even. It would get it to within 50 points that way.
Yeah. Okay.
30 points less.
But trading down in any case.
Yeah, I think in any case, like they should overpay, right? Because they're the ones moving up. So yeah,
that's
overpay a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be what I do. And man, gaining an extra second round pick, that's tempting. But look at the teams behind you. You got Indianapolis, Seattle, Jacksonville, Cincinnati. Some of these teams, I don't know that they need an offensive lineman. Some of them, Bengals, yes. The Rams, yes. Steelers. So I mean, that's tough because now you're going to be in a situation where you'd almost have to go get somebody in that second round for sure, because some of the first round talent might be out.
I mean, maybe a Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma is still there at 22. Like there's still some talent there. You can see how it goes. I don't know. It's interesting. Do we want to do it? Do we want to do it just because we know that the Saints wouldn't?
We could
just see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? Okay, so we're
not worried about predicting. We've made our predictions already. Like we think we know where the Saints are going.
Okay, this trade is lopsided. Your team will veto it. Has an 81% chance, and then let's see if it's a 93% chance at 53. I'm greedy, and I like to right the wrongs from the other time, so we're going to offer them that.
Yeah. That's going to work.
My thing,
so now I like to try to get as close to 50-50 as possible, right? Like the balance of the value should be in the middle, or as in the middle as possible. So I'm all about that.
Yeah. Jacksonville going for receiver. Rams might want to come up for a DT. I think so. So we accepted a trade. We accepted 22 from the Eagles and got back the 50th pick that was originally New Orleans. And so we traded that.
Still have Trevor Penning.
Yeah. Oh man, you're killing me. All right, so now
Heck yeah.
we got some runs on some people. So now
Fuaga
we
went
might have
one
shot
pick.
ourselves. We
That's
shot
okay.
ourselves in the foot. So Fashanu went,
Uh-huh.
Botano went, Barton went,
Uh-huh.
Mims went, and Fuaga went. Man, if
Ain't even
Fuaga would have
bad.
lasted, golly,
I
that would have
know.
been good.
One more spot, it would have been perfect, but that's okay.
But
That's
to
all
be
right.
fair, there's guys in the second round we can
Mhm.
get. So now let's look at this board. You got Cooper, you got Latu, Newton. That's a little bit of an interesting one that I might like. Mitchell, Wiggins, McKinstry, Kool-Aid, man.
Kool-Aid
I
McKinstry.
laugh.
Gotta love it.
Powers Johnson. Man, I love Peyton Wilson, but I know they're not going to take a linebacker here. That's not
Yeah.
happening. Newman's there, McConkey. Man, what are you thinking here? I think
Oh,
this
Jason
is
Newton. Johnny Newton.
I think he's got to be right.
Yeah, for me, it's either Newton or Latu, like either one of them and everything. I'd be
But I think
perfectly happy with. But I
the
think with
interior is
the yeah,
better.
exactly,
More
100%.
me.
100%. Yeah,
I'd go interior for sure. Okay.
Johnny Newton. I still wouldn't be shocked if the Saints took a DT at 14. maybe a little bit more so now, like over the course of the past week, just learning more about Ryan Ramczyk and everything like that. Like maybe I'd be a little bit more shocked now. But yeah, Johnny Newton.
Yeah.
Let's roll.
All right. So we're going Newton. So now we're going to have some interesting things because now we're going to have 45 and 50. I don't think that's too bad. Getting Leggett win again. Patrick Paul just went.
Paul went. Okay.
Suma Tuma tires. And he went. He left.
That's okay. So then I would say probably like if I was to give like if I had my druthers here, I'd probably go with somebody here, and then at 50, I'd probably go Kieran Amayeji.
Okay, so who we're looking at right now? Still looking at interesting. So Roman Wilson, Sanders are out there. Man, what position are you thinking? That's the question here. Is it have
wide
to be
receivers easy
in
this? Yeah, wide receivers in the easy here in the second. We don't have to rush for offensive tackle because I think we can get. I think Kieran would last until 50.
Right. Tons of people interested in trading.
Yeah, everybody's trying to get it from Michael Penix Jr.
Right, exactly. All right, but I'm firm. I'd stick here.
It might almost be. Oh gosh, it might almost be worth taking Jackson Powers Johnson. Honestly, I mean that dude can play, and you can put him at guard.
As you say, left guard. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Kieran Amayeji is probably going to be a guy that's going to translate to guard in the pros anyway.
Yeah.
Everything.
Man,
5.
that is
maybe not 6'5". What's his? Oh, maybe not. I think maybe. Okay, I'm best player available on the board right now is Jackson Powers Johnson, in my opinion.
I don't disagree that. I don't disagree with that. I'm just thinking if we have one at 50, what the board would look like, and that's just and all of our time would be out because we'd get expired on the clock. We would at least last draft too. Man, I think in Powers Johnson, I like that concept of just putting a left guard in there, and then you still can get a tackle. You still can because you got.
I might take Jackson Powers Johnson here and then a tackle at 50 if Kieran's still on the board. Or we could go with like Tyler Nubin here. I mean, like that, but I'm like build the trenches, man.
Nah, this is a team that believes in building from the trenches within. Let's follow that. All right, boom. Tyler Nubin went. All right, so let's see what we got. All right, let's start. Let's look. Okay, so your guy's there. So your guy's there. So you got Coleman, they got Fisher, you got some other ones, but I don't think you have to really sell me on this one if you get somebody like him. All right.
That works for me.
So now,
and then should we try to trade up in like the 120 area?
Let's see. Yeah, let's let it go. And then let's see if we can't get into the third or the fourth round. I think that's what I want to look at.
It's a whole new team in the trenches all of a sudden, man.
Man, I'm telling you. All right.
Let me tell you a little bit. I'll tell the folks a little bit about Kieran Amayeji because there's not a lot of, I don't know that a lot of people like know too much about him. Now he is coming off of a quad injury, which is worth mentioning, but played a lot of time at left tackle, played a lot of time at right guard as well. 14 games at left tackle, 10 at right guard. 36-inch arms, 36 and an 1/8 inch arms, if I remember correctly. 6'5", Like he would fit so well at right tackle. Like it would absolutely work. You could move him inside too if you wanted to. But I probably wouldn't trust him right away at left tackle, but I'd feel pretty good about him at right tackle.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. So I paused it because we're in the 4th round. So we didn't trade up in the 3rd. So now we're just looking at who's in there. I'm more so what team would you want to trade with? Is the Patriots, there's Cardinals, Chargers. You got a whole bunch of teams to choose from. Chargers got a lot of seems a few of them. Jacksonville's another one.
Yeah, and just thinking about teams, like I see a couple of teams that the Saints have had previous trades with. So like Jacksonville, Seattle, and then I think New York, the New York Jets were up there too. Those are all teams that make sense. New England definitely makes sense.
I try to get 116. I'd want to get 116 from Jacksonville. I think that's what I think.
116? Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So then I would probably start that one 116. That's going to be what? Points wise, it comes up to 62 points. So if the Saints were to package, let's say 150, which is 31 points, and 168. So those are their 2 first 5th round selections. That gets them pretty close. Gets them within 7 points.
I'm just trying to think. So you could do a 3rd next year, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If you wanted to keep, if you wanted, you could do a 3rd or a 4th next year if you wanted to keep 150.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. If you keep 150, that'd be great. But I think that this is a case where Jacksonville, if you trade up, I mean, you could try a 4th next time. They're saying it will not be accepted. 3rd is lopsided, and they're going to veto it. I wonder if you can get something. What is it?
You could do like 4. You could do that future 4th and 175.
Yeah, let's see. Let's try that. Let's see.
And maybe, yeah.
Okay, it worked.
Oh,
so
great.
We made the trade and got back into the 4th round. We moved up from 150 to 116. We kept 150. We traded around a 4th next year and 175 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So now we're back on the clock. I like that because I like getting you back into the 4th. At 3rd might be hard, but the way we've played these trades out, I don't know. It's always fun. All right, so now what we're looking. Oh God, Tavondre's there. Must resist urge. Okay, so
let's see what wide receivers on the board real quick.
Wait, hold on. With their first round 4 selection, New Orleans Saints fans select punter. What?
That seems right. I do. That seems.
Oh God.
That seems logical.
Oh man,
Kitchens is fun.
Yeah, that is a fun one. And so we got to think about it because we're not going to pick again until 150. And so what we've got, we've talked about the trenches, but are we looking at wide receiver?
I'm curious what wideouts are on the board.
Yeah, let's take a look. So Smith was obviously the top one. Rice, Washington, Williams, McCaffrey, Cornelius, Jalen Coker, and then Jaquan. Jaquan is going to be interesting. I really think he's going to be somebody to keep an eye on, but not here, not at 116.
Yeah.
Do you like any of these guys at 116?
Just Brendan Rice. I will spend any draft pick post 100 on Brendan Rice because then I get Jerry Rice in my wide receiver room every now and then for my young wideouts.
Yeah, I don't deny it. Can you believe that we're at that point? Like Frank Gore, Jerry Rice, Jeremiah Trotter, like all these guys. Like there's so many of them now. I'm like, I'm old. First of all, I look a lot. I'm a lot older than what I look. But holy crap!
You know what tripped me out? The one that tripped me out was Cam Jordan posted. I think it was yesterday. I think it was on Sunday of this week. He posted a photo of Steve Jordan, his father, who of course played for the Minnesota Vikings himself, and his son Tank, saying the legacy, the present, and the future. And then I was like, oh my God, I might still be covering this team when Tank Jordan gets selected in the draft at some point. Wow. Like there's a good chance that happens.
Yeah, nothing like being old for that. I hope so. I hope I'm covering this team in 20 years. Yeah, for sure. All right. So it's Kitchens or Rice. I don't know that I would be upset. And I know everything in me is like, oh, Tavondre was out there, so it was the
Yeah, but we got
I
Johnny
think we
Newton.
got Johnny Newton. I don't think there's a point to
Yeah.
do that at all. So it's just, do you want a safety or can you wait for the safety? We showed that earlier.
Yeah, I'd have
I
to
don't
cross my
think
fingers on
Rice
the
would
safety
be.
thing.
Yeah, I don't think Rice wouldn't be a bad guy to take here.
I'm all about Brendan Rice. Quintessential X receiver, very good route runner. Surprise, surprise. His dad's Jerry Rice.
Yep.
Safe player in terms of like culture, safe player in terms of catch, like good hands, possession receiver. I mean,
8.73 on a RAS, not too bad.
yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go
I love
Rice.
it. And then I'm crossing my. I'll wait until 150 at this point, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
I'm good with that because we at this point we picked up an extra second and then we also got back and forth. So again, for
Yeah,
those who might have been just joining us, we made some trades. We traded down, which we know is probably not going to happen, but at the same time, what we got in it, we got back 50, and then we were traded down 8 spots. So I think that's a big one. All right, 150 now.
This is what I was hoping for. So the reason why I was willing to pass on Cameron Kitchens is because I was hoping that Malik Mustafa would be here at 150. Just
Whew,
an
that's a good one.
absolute downhill safety type in the box, like outstanding. So
Yep.
my vote early is Malik Mustafa. Although I do like Will Shipley too. You want another pass catcher out the backfield?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm looking pass catcher like that right now because of what they've got, at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think need wise, I like Mustafa. I do.
I like Mustafa.
I can agree there for sure. Okay.
Can drop back in the coverage in a split safety situation. Probably don't want
Yep.
him as your lone safety, but playing down in the box, let him punish. I love it.
Yep. All right. So now we're going back on the board and we got the 2 picks to make because we traded away 175 with the Jaguars and a future fourth to get back in the 4th round.
How much of
So
a curveball would Jordan Travis be? I mean, before the
a
injury, dude, he was
big one.
balling.
I know, and it's tough to think, but I just with them, it's just too crowded, and I know
Makes
that they're going to
sense.
give Jake Hayner a fair shot.
Yeah.
I think we talked about Peterman and Kellen Mond last week, and of course they still have Taysom Hill, but out of Mond and Peterman, they're probably going to be number 3. But you're just hoping that at this point Hayner is that guy, a backup,
Yeah.
and so
Makes perfect sense.
yeah. All right, so some interesting. There's your Steel Chambers. Javon Foster's out here. Let's see. Jaden Sheridan, Whittington, Jordan Travis, and that's interesting. Walter Rouse.
I like Kalen King out of Penn State.
I was going to ask you about him in the last one because I was looking
Mm-hmm.
through him and stuff. That was an interesting one. I think with the way you're picking here, is since you got one pick in different with you, this could be Kalen King and Javon Foster territory. I think that could be like both of those picks.
Yeah. I think I would prioritize, like, if you were okay with getting another offensive lineman, knowing that we got Jackson Powers Johnson, knowing that we got Kieran Amageji, if you'd like another offensive lineman here, then for me, I would prioritize Javon Foster, especially knowing that Green Bay has some O-line issues, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then see if Kalen King makes it to you at 1. And if not, Nehemiah Pritchett's right there. He's small and undersized, but he's feisty.
Yeah. I given who's still on the board, I feel good that we can risk it and still get Javon Foster. So I think corner Kalen King. I like that one. That's
Oh, you want to prioritize Kalen King?
Okay, yeah, cool. I'm going to do that because so then they took a wide receiver. So now I'm going to go get Javon. So that's probably where it is. I mean, that's again, they have 2 offensive linemen, but this is an extra layer. I mean, I know it's going to be crowded in a sense, but that's kind of what I want. I want somebody that's going to start a left guard there. I like veteran. James Harris is a veteran that could play swing or jumbo if that's the case. If a Powers Johnson would stop there, so Yeah, Calvin likes to
Yeah,
keep
he
it.
really, he did really drop. I think part of the reason why Kalen King dropped is because my understanding is that like teams like him at safety too. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a drop because of that. And then tackling. Tackling is his big question mark.
I'm going Foster. I like
Let's
that
do it.
one. I think it just makes sense. And I think too, when you look at it, some of the contract situations beyond this year too, I think it just reinvesting in this offensive line is just gotta happen. And I know there's still free agents out there, that are going to come up, and so that could be possible. Hey, the punter's there.
I was about to say your guys here.
And Jordan Travis too.
And Jordan Travis. Come on now.
Yeah.
And
right,
Josh Proctor. Let's load up.
Man. And Garindo's there too.
Garindo's there again. Yep. Could make sense.
Yep.
Jalen Harrell, a little bit of an underrated pass rusher. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. A lot of bit of an underrated pass rusher. I actually like him quite a bit. I don't know if he is. You got to squint to get him in the prototype. He's like right there. 6'3" and 3/4 inches. So he's like right there. And then 247, which you can bulk up, but I do like him.
Okay. Yeah, there's not too much to talk through. I think you could probably take him there, and maybe you could get, I think we can get our running back in 199. I do.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
No rush on the running back.
No, I don't think so.
See if the punter makes it.
Garindo went, so there's that. Jordan Travis went.
Does that mean it's punter?
I'm telling you.
Trey Taylor at Air Force. We already took a safety, but if we didn't have one, he's one of my favorite safeties in the class. Just like he was a Jim Thorpe Award winner last year for best defensive back in the country. And we're talking about him as a 6th or 7th round, potentially undrafted free agent simply because of the fact that he went to Air Force, which stinks. Stinks that that's the case, not stinks that he went to Air Force.
Right.
Yes.
Rasheen Alley. Any thoughts on Rasheen Alley?
I don't have a lot of. I haven't done a lot of look at him. Dylan Lowry, I've looked at a lot, but I haven't looked at much at Rasheen Alley.
Without even thinking about it, I mean, just looking at some of the other guys that are still here, I think a running back would make sense. And of course, being that they don't have everybody on here, I'm just gonna keep saying it. A Jarvion Howard from Alcorn. I don't know if he's gonna last, but that's kind of where I would think too. But I don't know. I think you would talk me into the lobby.
He's going to be a little bit more like pass catcher, but I think he's got.
But in this offense, this new offense, I think that's actually not a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think he can run well in gap scheme too. Yeah, 76 point, was that 8, 9? In terms of his grade, I'm totally down with that because I think Lobby is like one of those dudes that just kind of fits the scheme that he's in, kind of thing, and he can pass and he can catch passes, and so like I think that works for me.
From New Hampshire.
Sold.
I'd probably throw away 239. Give me a future something, but
yeah, just anybody got a future 7th they want to give up, and we just got out of here.
Yeah, right.
Let's go home. What's that chant that they do all the time in the NBA stands and the refs are taking too long to review plays?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Or whatever it is.
Please, Pels, while we're at it. Please, Pels, let's go. Let's go, Pels. Come on.
Let's go, Pels.
All right, 239. I don't want to say throwaway pick, but
all right, hear me out. No, I'm just kidding. Hear me out. Carter Bradley. Cam Little, 3 kicker action. Solomon Byrd, little pass rusher out of USC. Not little though, he's a little bit bigger. Tahib Still is a corner that I actually like. Tahib Still. I have Tahib Still ranked higher than Kalen King.
Wow,
I thought he was already off the board. I didn't think he was gonna be dropping all the way to 7.
Yeah,
Trey Knox is a lot of fun. Like a good move tight end somewhere.
And everybody's talking about Tua's brother too. At some point, they mentioned him, but no, I don't see it. See it. I think you loading back in the secondary. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. If this is your guy, then I'm not going to debate you on that one.
I like Tahib Still. He's just one of those dudes that like fits well in the man coverage scheme and all that stuff. 5'11", 188. He's a little bit undersized, but 4.49 speed. Boy, he fast. And he's got like that kind of scheme versatility and everything like that. 38-inch vert.
It's only 21. That's pretty good.
He's young, good natural like ball skills too. Could be a nickel player too, especially at that size. So he'd be a different selection than Kalen King. I might trade for a future 7th before this draft is over, just because I got Tahib still. Like,
yeah, for real. We're going.
Let's do it. A plus.
Yeah, the grades. Let's go with some grades now. That'll be
A
fun.
plus 100, top 1% of all drafts.
Hey, we earned some awards too. I don't know what that is, but sure.
I don't know. You got to gamify everything, right?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Academy. All right, so here we go. This is our summary.
A.
So we traded, just so you know, we traded with the Eagles. We traded down. Preface that because we got back. We traded 8 spots back, and we picked up 50, which is New Orleans' original pick in the 2nd round. So recoup that pick. It was between 50 and 53. So we went back and got 53. We took Johnny Newton, 1st round, 22. Then 1st pick, Jackson Powers Johnson, because we want the left guard. That's where we project. Then we got Kieran at 50 because we're going to solidify the trenches a little bit more. So they gave us A, B, and a B because we went with Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice.
They just did that. They just did the B for Brendan.
B for Brendan. That makes sense. And then we made another trade because we wanted to get back in the 4th. So we gave Jacksonville our 5th rounder, 175, and a 4th rounder next year, which of course maybe not be as appealing, but I think that makes sense. And so we didn't trade after that. Malik Mustafa. We went secondary for sure. So Kalen King, Javon Foster, got another trench guy, Jalen Harold, Dylan Lobby, and Tarheeb Still. 2 C+ kicks. And they don't like your King pick. C. B+.
I don't like my King pick anymore either. When I saw Tarheeb still available in the 3rd round. Let me mulligan 1 pick right quick. Dang.
Yeah, right. Let's go
back.
But
that's okay. Like I dig all that.
Yeah. I can't be upset with it. I really can't. I mean, I think it's going to be fascinating to see if this team is going to trade up or trade down or anything like that. It's 3 centers on the interior line. No, they're not 3 centers. One's a tackle, one's a
he's about Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz, who played center.
Oh yeah, of course,
or have played center at some time, right?
Yeah,
and then you get Jackson Powers Johnson in there. So you really what you do is that you just move them every play, different center every play.
Yeah,
keep
them guessing. Keep them guessing. Keep them legs fresh.
That's right. I got to be careful. People are gonna think I'm like actually saying that. Like Roston lost his dang mind.
Yeah, it's just true. We probably have lost our mind a couple of times. So, all right. Well, this is cool. This was fun. A lot of fun.
This is great.
So we're gonna be around for the draft. I don't know about the live stream and stuff, but as we wind down here. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, pushing to 500. We are only growing and stuff. So this is a fun thing that we love to do. And I cannot tell you how can't say it. Hey, look, okay. I understand. It's okay.
I don't blame you.
It's okay.
There's a lot of unrealistic things happening in that draft. We traded back. Jackson Powers Johnson was available at 45. Like, we get it. It's cool.
Of course. Yeah, I know. Of course. And I'm sure everybody's going to be disappointed when draft comes along at any rate. So that's just how it goes. And if I'm not kidding, if I ran a team, I would draft a QB pretty much every year. Thanks, Will.
Will and I used to write together at what used to be All Saints Considered.
Okay. Yeah.
What's up, Will? Hope you're well, man. Thanks for checking the show out. That's awesome.
Yep. So again, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and man, just giving us your time is just. We appreciate it, really do. I can't say that
for
enough.
real.
I wouldn't do this show. Like, I love doing this show with Ross. I mean, I know we've got a whole bunch of things going on, but dude, it's just we just vibe together, and again, the way it is and such. Jordan Travis, there's a Jordan Travis love, and there it is. Let's go for 6 quarterbacks in the room. Let's do it. Let's get crazy.
We're gonna put him in a cage match, man.
That's right. Fight to the death. Yeah.
Taysom's gonna win, by the way.
Yeah, he will. He will for sure. Oh, he's throwing out some personal info. All right, there you go, Ross. Let's end with what you got coming up on Locked On. Obviously, it's probably draft stuff, which is not a shock. So
No, not at all. I did all of the kind of look yesterday at my predictive mock draft with Taliese Fuaga at 14, looking at that right tackle spot. I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into the right tackle spot today, especially now with more public knowledge around the Ryan Ramczyk situation and stuff like that. I feel a bit more comfortable with that now. So I'll discuss that a little bit more, get into some of the things that I wouldn't be surprised to see by the New Orleans Saints. And then my favorite thing that I do before one of my favorite things to do before every draft is I go through the first, like the early top 100 selection. So for this one will be just the 2, 14 and 45. And talk about what the most surprising selection that I can imagine being possible is at each of those selections. So I'll probably do that in Wednesday's episode.
Very cool.
That's how I got. I didn't get Peyton Turner right, but I got edge rusher right a couple of years back with that. So
yeah,
pretty good.
Makes sense. So we'll have Mickey, and again, all the interviews and stuff that come up, you can catch them on Second and Saints. All that stuff will be here, and so when we have Mickey, just make sure you tune back in. We'll have it up for you and stuff. But for me, again, just Saints News Network. Make sure to go to our site and check out stuff. I've got a couple previews to finish, just safety, and I'm going to dive into special teams. I'm going to talk about that punter, Ross.
Let's go. Let's go.
I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know, but it begs the question, of course, if they're going to have all those picks. And then looking at the draft history, draft trades, I've still got that thing going where it's going to be a little bit easier again for the Saints to get in the 3rd or 4th round. It's going to be a little bit easier than you think.
Yeah.
Hopefully they do. And then, of course, there's just tons of mega draft coverage. So stick with us. Follow us at Saints News. Follow Ross on Locked On. Don't forget to like and subscribe his channel. In addition to this channel, hit us up on the Twitterverse, right? We are love our fans. We love to interact and all that fun stuff, even if you don't like us or you don't like our opinions and all that fun stuff. But again, we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day, your night, really, to
100%.
definitely spend some time with us and get to know us a little better and how crazy we are. There, I said it.
Absolute.
All right, guys, y'all be good. Enjoy your week. Get ready for the draft. It's coming Thursday night. I heard they're not doing the crawfish boil this year.
They're not doing the crawfish boil this year. It was a surprise. Yeah, there's like a whole Reddit post about it. People are like, man, I was really enjoying that. Like that was a lot of fun. So hopefully they bring it back next year. I wonder if it's got something to do with renovations of the kitchen. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
That's the crawfish prices that were crazy for a little while too. I wonder if that had something to do. They might have had to up the ticket charge, and so it's like, well, let's just not do it.
Yeah, never know. But at any rate, that's going to wrap it up for us today as we wrap down episode 9 of Second and Saints. Keep it tuned here. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. On behalf of Ross Jackson, I am John Hendricks signing out. Thanks, guys. Be good people.